But what if that same coin, a 2006 South Dakota quarter with a tiny P mint mark, could make you a millionaire? Sounds impossible, right? Well, one man almost tossed his into a parking meter until a sharp-eyed collector spotted something no one else had noticed. That same quarter later sold for nearly $1.6 million. The story of this coin begins quietly, like most treasures do, inside the Philadelphia Mint back in 2006. It was part of the State Quarters program, a beautiful series that honored every U.S. state. South Dakota's design was striking. Mount Rushmore framed by the state bird, the Chinese ring-necked pheasant soaring gracefully across. Millions of them were struck. The answer lies in a secret only a handful of experts knew. Somewhere during production, an error occurred, one so rare, it slipped past every quality control inspector at the mint. The dies, the metal stamps used to strike the design, had worn down unevenly. When the next batch of blanks was fed through, a small but crucial misalignment caused a double impression around the word South and faint doubling on Washington's profile. But that wasn't all. Some of these coins showed what collectors now call the ghost bird effect, where the pheasant's wings appear almost shadowed, as if it's flying in two places at once. At first, no one noticed. These quarters went into circulation, jingling through cash registers, vending machines, and pockets across the country. For months, maybe even years, nobody realized the hidden fortune in their spare change. But then came a discovery that stunned the entire coin world: that a man in Nebraska was sorting through rolls of quarters from his local bank. He wasn't a professional, just a hobbyist who liked the thrill of the hunt. As he lined up his 2006 coins, one of them looked strange. The bird looked blurry, and Washington's chin seemed thicker than normal. He almost dismissed it as a smudge. Almost. But curiosity made him take a closer look under a magnifier. That's when he saw it. A faint doubling that shouldn't exist. He posted photos online, and within hours, collectors from across the country were buzzing. "That can't be real," one said. "If it is, it's a discovery piece." Coin forums lit up. Dealers started searching their inventories. And suddenly, what had once been a 25-cent coin turned into the most talked-about quarter of the year. But what happened next stunned everyone. The Nebraska collector sent his coin to be graded and authenticated. Weeks later, the results came back: genuine minting error, extraordinary condition, and one of a kind. When it finally went to auction, the bidding war was fierce. What started at a few $1,000s skyrocketed as collectors realized the rarity before them. By the time the hammer fell, the room went silent. Final price, $1.6 million. Now here's the part most people miss, and it's why this story matters to you. Not all of these coins have been found. Experts believe several more 2006 P South Dakota quarters with this same doubling error are still out there, hiding in plain sight. Some may be sitting in coin jars, old drawers, glove boxes, or even in your change right now. And this isn't just about luck. You can learn exactly how to identify it. When you look at a 2006 South Dakota quarter, first check for the mint mark P. That tells you it was struck in Philadelphia, where the error occurred. Then, focus on the details. Use a magnifying glass and look closely at the pheasant's wings. If you see ghosting or a second faint image, that's your first clue. Next, check the letters in South Dakota. Doubling often appears along the edges of the letters S and U. Finally, turn to Washington's face. Pay attention to his chin and jawline. That's where subtle doubling can make all the difference. Collectors were shocked to learn how easy it was to overlook. Some of these coins have slight die cracks, tiny raised lines that run across the surface. Others show faint spreading between the date numbers, another sign of a misaligned strike. The key is in the details and patience. Dealers are now offering thousands just for verified examples, even those not in perfect shape. But there's one more twist. Experts believe that some of these error coins may have been struck on experimental planchets, blank coins made from slightly different metal compositions. These can cause subtle color variations, such as a lighter or darker hue compared to regular quarters. So if your 2006 South Dakota quarter looks slightly off in color, or feels heavier or lighter than usual, don't ignore it. Every few months, another one surfaces, often from ordinary people who never thought they'd own anything valuable. A retired schoolteacher in Michigan found one in her coin jar. She'd been saving quarters for years and almost spent it at a car wash. After learning about the 2006 P error, she checked her collection, and there it was, a faintly doubled pheasant flying across her coin. She later sold it for over $400,000. These stories prove that life-changing finds don't always come from gold mines or auctions. Sometimes, they come from pocket change. From that quarter you almost spin without thinking. From that small jingle in your car's cup holder. The power of this coin isn't just in its metal, it's in the mystery it carries. It reminds us that even the most ordinary things can hold extraordinary value, if only we pay attention. One small mistake at the US Mint became a miracle for those who noticed. So the next time you get change back at the grocery store, stop for a moment. Look at your quarters. That 2006 P South Dakota quarter, the one with Mount Rushmore and the soaring pheasant, could be more than just spare change. It could be the key to a fortune, a piece of history, a miracle hiding in plain sight. Collectors around the world are still searching, still hoping to find one more. Because every new discovery sends shockwaves through the coin community, reigniting the dream that one lucky person could stumble upon the next million-dollar treasure. This story isn't a myth. It's real, it's documented, and it's ongoing. The only question left is, will the next one be found by you? Examine your coins. Study the details. Check that mint mark. Look for doubling, cracks, and color shifts. Because one of those small, forgotten quarters might just be the next to break records. The Nebraska man's life changed forever because he looked twice at something most people ignore. And that's the beauty of this hunt. It's not just about money. It's about curiosity, passion, and the thrill of discovery. Imagine tossing a coin into a change jar, not knowing it was worth a fortune. That's exactly what almost happened with a 1971 D. Washington quarter that turned out to be worth up to $1.7 million. A simple, everyday coin, hiding a secret so rare that even veteran collectors couldn't believe it when it was revealed. This coin was never meant to stand out. It looked just like every other quarter in your pocket. Washington's proud profile on the front, the majestic eagle on the back, and that tiny D mint mark just below the date. But buried within that little letter D lies a mystery that's been driving collectors wild for decades. Because one small minting mistake, one overlooked detail, transformed an ordinary piece of change into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. The story begins in 1971, inside the Denver Mint, a year of chaos, pressure, and production speed like never before. The U.S. Mint was pushing out millions of coins daily, trying to keep up with national demand. Amid that rush, a few planchets, the blank metal discs used to strike coins, were mistakenly made from silver instead of the copper-nickel alloy introduced in 1965. Those few silver quarters, somehow mixed into Denver's regular production, slipped quietly into circulation. Decades later, one of these mysterious 1971 D quarters resurfaced, not in a museum, not in a collection, but in someone's pocket change. A man from Colorado noticed the unusual shine and strange ring of his quarter. It didn't sound like the others when dropped on a counter. Curious, he took it to a local dealer, and what they discovered would soon make headlines. Tests confirmed the coin was struck on a 90% silver planchet, a leftover blank from the pre-1965 era. This wasn't just a mint error, it was a ghost from the past, an accidental time traveler in coin form. And when it went to auction, the bidding went insane. Collectors knew this was a one-in-a-billion mistake, and the final hammer price pushed near $1.7 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were stunned. Suddenly, everyone began scouring their change for a 1971 D quarter that didn't quite look or sound right. But the story gets stranger. Some experts believe there are more of these silver 1971 D quarters still out there, unnoticed, unappreciated, and waiting to be found. You see, the Denver Mint's records from that year show discrepancies, missing planchets, unexplained weight totals, and incomplete batch reports. Some numismatists think several error coins escaped that day, quietly blending in with regular circulation. And that means one of them could be sitting in your house right now. Imagine finding that. A coin you've handled for years, maybe dropped in a vending machine, maybe sitting in a jar, suddenly revealed to be worth over $1 million. It sounds unbelievable, but it's happened before. One collector compared the thrill to finding a winning lottery ticket you'd already spent. Because these rare minting errors don't announce themselves. They whisper their secret only to those who know what to look for. But here's where it gets really interesting. Not all valuable 1971 D quarters are silver. Some carry a different kind of error, a striking misalignment, a double die, or a weak strike on Washington's hair or the eagle's feathers. One coin showed a dramatic doubling of the date and mint mark under magnification. Another had a faint but visible second strike on the reverse side. Both fetched over 6 figures in private sales. Start with the basics. Weight. A regular 1971 D quarter should weigh about 5.67 grams. But the silver error coin weighs closer to 6.25 grams. That tiny difference could mean the difference between spare change and $1,000,000. You can test it easily with a digital scale at home. Drop it gently on a hard surface. A normal copper-nickel quarter makes a dull, flat clack. But the rare silver one rings with a bright, bell-like tone that lasts a second longer. That sound is unmistakable to those who've heard it. Almost musical, like it's trying to tell you, I'm not what you think I am. Then look closely at the edge. Regular quarters have a copper-colored stripe visible on the rim. That's the copper core showing through the nickel coating. But a silver error coin has a clean, pure edge, no stripe, just a consistent white-silver tone all the way around. Collectors who found these say the moment you realize what you're holding, your heart skips a beat. One man said, "It's like the world stops for a second. You're holding history, and it's worth more than you can wrap your head around." The D mint mark. Some of the known error coins show slight doubling or distortion around the mint mark, likely from the older dies being reused under high pressure. If you notice your 1971 quarters D looks blurry, doubled, or unusually shaped, that's a major clue. But even with all this knowledge, the hunt isn't easy. Many people have searched thousands of coins and found nothing. Others, by sheer luck, pulled one from a parking meter or a soda machine. It's that unpredictable magic that keeps collectors chasing, because the next one could be anywhere. This is what makes coin collecting so addictive. You're not just gathering metal. You're chasing mysteries, lost stories, errors, and miracles hidden in plain sight. The 1971 D Washington quarter is proof that the smallest things can hold the biggest surprises. And the truth is, nobody knows how many of these are still out there. The mint never confirmed the exact number, and every new discovery reignites the frenzy. Every coin roll searcher, every garage sale hunter, every guy checking his pocket change before buying coffee. They're all hoping for that one moment of disbelief when a forgotten piece of history reveals itself. One retired machinist from Texas said he'd searched quarters for 20 years before finding his rare coin. "It didn't even look special," he said. "It was just a little shinier, a little heavier. I almost didn't check it. That coin changed my life." And that's the beauty of it. You never know when lightning will strike that SO. The next time you see a 1971 D quarter, don't ignore it. Look closer. Feel the weight. Listen to the sound. Examine the edge. You might be holding the very same type of coin that once sold for $1.7 million. But today, it's worth nearly $1.8 million. A 2002 D Mississippi quarter, a coin millions of Americans once used for parking meters and vending machines, is now one of the most talked about treasures in modern numismatics. And what's even crazier, it looks almost identical to every other quarter in your pocket. But hidden in its details lies a mistake so rare, it turned pocket change into $1,000,000 miracle. It all began quietly, back in 2002, when the U.S. Mint released the Mississippi State Quarter, part of the wildly popular 50 State Quarters program. People collected them, traded them, and tucked them into jars, but nobody could have guessed that one small batch from the Denver Mint held a secret, a flaw that would one day make history. For years, these quarters circulated unnoticed. They jingled through cash registers, fell between couch cushions, and vanished into the endless tide of spare change. But then, in 2017, a collector in Texas was sorting through a handful of coins he'd pulled from a laundromat when he saw something unusual. The edges of one Mississippi quarter looked slightly off, thicker on one side, thinner on the other. Curious, he grabbed a magnifying glass. What he found changed his life forever. Under magnification, the D mint mark wasn't just off-center. It was doubled, pressed twice by accident, creating a subtle but stunning doubling effect. And that wasn't the only problem. The magnolia blossoms, the heart of the Mississippi design, appeared to have extra outlines, faint but visible, like ghostly echoes of the engraving that he sent the coin to be graded, expecting maybe a small premium, a few $100 at most. But when the experts at PCGS examined it, they were stunned. They'd never seen this specific double strike before, a 1 in a billion combination of misaligned die and double hubbing, all perfectly preserved. The coin was authenticated as a major mint error, and within months, it went to auction. When the hammer dropped, the coin sold for over $1.8 million. Collectors gasped. Dealers couldn't believe it. A simple 25-cent piece had become a millionaire maker overnight. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Suddenly, treasure hunters everywhere began tearing through their spare change, looking for another 2002 Mississippi quarter with the same strange doubling. Pawn shops, antique stores, even gas stations saw people paying with cash just to get coins in return. Everyone wanted to be the next lucky finder. And for good reason, because even coins with partial doubling, light die cracks, or off-center strikes from that same Denver batch have fetched thousands. One sold for $18,000 despite being circulated. Another, with a faint second D mark and a slightly rotated reverse, brought in over $60,000. But here's where it gets interesting. The key to the million-dollar version isn't just the doubling. It's the combination of three things most people miss. First, the double D, mint mark, slightly tilted and faintly overlapping itself. Second, the extra outline on the magnolia petals, almost like a shadowed engraving. And third, a microscopic die crack running near the rim above the word Mississippi. It's tiny, but it's the signature of that specific minting accident. Most people who find these coins don't realize what they're holding. They see the scratches, the discoloration, the wear, and assume it's nothing special. But under the right light, under the right lens, it becomes something extraordinary. That's why collectors say this coin hides in plain sight. Because to the untrained eye, it's invisible. One collector said he found his coin at a flea market, mixed in with a box of state quarters being sold for face value. Another found one in a child's piggy bank and nearly spent it on a pack of gum. Imagine being that close to $1 million treasure without even knowing it. And here's the chilling part. Experts believe fewer than 5 of these perfect error coins exist. 5. That's why the 2002 Mississippi quarter has become legendary. It's not just rare, it's almost mythical. Dealers whisper about it at conventions. Collectors chase rumors of sightings like hunters tracking ghosts. Every time one surfaces, it sends shockwaves through the coin world. But the story doesn't end there. In 2021, a second example appeared, discovered by a retired machinist who'd been collecting coins since the 1970s. He spotted the same telltale doubling under a jeweler's loupe and sent it to NGC for grading. It came back as Mint Error MS 67 and was insured for $1.3 million. The machinist said, "I almost dropped it when I saw the result. 50 years of collecting, and I never thought a quarter could change my life." Think about that. A lifetime hobby turned into a life-changing discovery, all because he took a second look at something everyone else ignored. Mint records show that over 289 million Mississippi quarters were struck at the Denver Mint in 2002. If even a handful were affected by that misaligned die, some could still be sitting in circulation, in your change, in your drawer, or buried at the bottom of an old coffee can. The double D, the die crack version, and the ghost magnolia error. Each one is valuable, and together, they make the 2002 Mississippi quarter one of the most sought-after coins of the state quarters era. Start by flipping your quarter under a strong light. Look closely at the D mint mark. It should appear slightly shadowed or have a faint second impression. Then examine the magnolia blossoms on the reverse. If you see doubled lines or outlines that don't match the rest of the design, you might have something special. Finally, check the rim above the word Mississippi. A fine, almost hairline crack or raised ridge could confirm you're holding a genuine error piece. If you think you've found one, don't clean it, don't polish it, and definitely don't spend it. Place it in a soft holder or flip and have it graded by PCGS or NGC. Cleaning it could destroy the very surface that makes it valuable. And remember, even circulated examples can fetch serious money, depending on condition and the strength of the doubling. These quarters have sold from $5,000 all the way up to the $1 million range. That's right, a simple piece of pocket change could literally make you a millionaire. Collectors were shocked when the first one sold. Dealers are still searching for the next. And somewhere, maybe in your kitchen drawer or car cup holder, the next record-breaking Mississippi quarter could be waiting to be found. But instead, it turned into one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin history, a 2016 P. Theodore Roosevelt quarter dollar that sold for nearly $1 million. Think about that for a second. A coin you could have used to buy a candy bar, suddenly worth more than most people's homes. This is not a myth, not a rumor, but a jaw-dropping story of how one collector's curiosity turned a simple quarter into a life-changing treasure. It all began in 2016, when the U.S. Mint released the Theodore Roosevelt National Park quarter as part of the America the Beautiful series. Millions of them rolled off the presses, ordinary coins meant for ordinary hands. But hidden among those millions was something extraordinary. One coin, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, came out different. Not just slightly different, impossibly different. The details were crisp, the strike unusually deep, but something about the surface shimmered in a way no one could explain. It wasn't until a seasoned collector spotted it under bright light that the secret began to unfold. He noticed a faint doubling on Roosevelt's profile, a delicate but undeniable error known as a double-die obverse. The lettering around the rim, "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," had a ghost-like shadow, the kind of doubling that only happens when a coin is struck twice by misaligned dies. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light. But when he compared it with regular 2016 P quarters, the difference was shocking. This wasn't a common minting flaw. It was a one-in-a-million mistake. Collectors were shocked. Dealers couldn't believe their eyes. And when the coin hit the auction block, bidding erupted like wildfire. Within minutes, the price climbed, tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands, until the final hammer dropped at nearly $1 million. All because one man took a second look at a coin most people would have spent without a thought. Theodore Roosevelt, the president honored on this quarter, was known for his fierce determination and love for discovery. It's almost poetic that his coin would carry a hidden secret waiting to be discovered by someone equally determined. But what made this coin so valuable wasn't just its error. It was the combination of rarity, perfection, and timing. See, not every 2016 P. Roosevelt quarter is worth a fortune. Only those struck with that specific double die error, showing extreme clarity in the doubling on Roosevelt's face and the inscriptions, hold that life-changing value. And there's another twist. Some examples show a strange die clash on the reverse. That's when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a coin in between, leaving ghostly outlines of design elements from the opposite side. It's like the coin carries a faint echo of itself, a minting accident frozen in metal. When collectors realized this variety existed, a treasure hunt began. People started checking their change, coin rolls, even jars of quarters that had been sitting forgotten for years. The man who first discovered the $1 million piece didn't find it at a coin shop. He found it at a local diner. He was paying for lunch when the coin's strange shine caught his eye. Something about Roosevelt's image looked bolder, more powerful, almost alive. He swapped it out for another quarter, took it home, and placed it under magnification. The rest is coin collecting legend. Once word spread, more collectors began finding similar, though less dramatic, variations. Some sold for thousands. A few even reached six figures. The truth may never be fully known. The U.S. Mint never confirmed the exact cause. But the mystery only made the coin more valuable. Imagine the thrill, searching through rolls of quarters from the bank, and suddenly spotting that faint doubling on Roosevelt's face. It's like finding buried treasure with your own eyes. Collectors say that the key to spotting one is subtlety. Look closely at the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." If you see shadowed letters, slightly thicker than normal, you might be holding something incredible. The true $1 million example had a flawless surface. No scratches, no wear, no fingerprints. It was almost as if it had never been spent. That's why grading is crucial. Even the smallest nick can slash the value by tens of thousands. And legends are what this hobby is all about. But let me tell you something even more inspiring. These kinds of discoveries aren't just luck. They happen to people who look closer, who believe that extraordinary things can hide in the ordinary. That's why so many collectors say coin hunting is more than a hobby. It's a mindset. It's about slowing down, paying attention, and realizing that sometimes the universe hides its treasures in the smallest of places. And with the 2016 P. Theodore Roosevelt quarter, that's exactly what happened. First, look for the mint mark P on the obverse, just below "In God We Trust." That tells you it was struck in Philadelphia. Then, using a magnifying glass, inspect Roosevelt's face and the lettering for signs of doubling, that slight ghost-like duplication of the letters and features. Next, flip the coin over. On the reverse, examine the fine details of Roosevelt on horseback, especially around the reins and the trees. Some rare varieties show faint lines or ghost shapes caused by die clashes. If you find both, a doubled obverse and a clashed reverse, you might just be staring at a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. But before you start celebrating, handle it carefully. Don't clean it, don't polish it, don't even rub it with a cloth. Use gloves, place it in a soft case, and get it graded by a professional like PCGS or NGC. All because of one tiny minting mistake. Collectors around the country are still searching for these elusive coins. And every time one surfaces, the story grows. One man's lunch tab became a legend. Another collector's forgotten coin roll turned into an auction headline. And the next story could be yours to SO tonight. When you empty your pockets, take a closer look at your quarters. Check that 2016 date. Look for the P mint mark. And remember, the difference between ordinary and extraordinary might just be a faint shadow in Roosevelt's face. Imagine a coin that almost slipped through history unnoticed, a simple 2015 P Saratoga quarter that someone could have spent on a cup of coffee, but instead, it became one of the most shocking million-dollar finds of the decade. Yes, a small piece of metal, minted in Philadelphia, now worth up to $1.1 million. But stay with me, because once you understand what makes this coin so special, you'll never look at pocket change the same way again. The story begins in late 2015, when the U.S. Mint released the Saratoga quarter as part of the America the Beautiful series. It commemorated the final battle of the American Revolution, the surrender at Saratoga, where freedom itself hung in the balance. Most people saw it as just another state quarter, but a few rare ones carried a hidden secret. One that would make even the most experienced collector's jaws drop. A man in New York, a retired history teacher, was rolling up his loose change one morning. Among the dimes and pennies, he spotted a quarter with an unusual shine, a Saratoga quarter. At first, he didn't think much of it, until he turned it slightly under the light and noticed something strange near the edge of the coin. A faint doubling in the lettering, subtle, almost invisible. His heart started to race. Could it be? He sent the coin to be graded, and what came back stunned him. It wasn't just a minor flaw. This was a full double die error, one of the rarest types of minting mistakes, and in pristine condition. Collectors across the country were suddenly talking about the Saratoga Phantom double die. A coin just like his, a 2015 P Saratoga quarter, sold at auction for an unbelievable $1.1 million. The room went silent as the hammer came down. Nobody had expected a modern quarter to reach that kind of number. Not in our lifetime. But the reason behind its value wasn't just the error. It was the combination of history, rarity, and a perfect storm of conditions. You see, most coins go through high-speed minting presses that strike hundreds of thousands of blanks per day. Every so often, the dies, the metal pieces that stamp the coin's design, shift ever so slightly. When this happens, you get doubling in the letters, or in details like Washington's eye or the sword being surrendered on the reverse. These are minting anomalies, and they're gold to collectors. Most 2015 P Saratoga quarters show no error at all. They're common pocket change. But the rare few, those with the double die or off-center strike, especially in uncirculated condition, are worth a fortune. And that's what makes the hunt so thrilling. 1 in a million, literally. Collectors were shocked when reports started surfacing of these coins being discovered in ordinary rolls of quarters from banks. One man even said he found his while buying a soda at a gas station in Pennsylvania. That same coin, once verified, fetched over $30,000. But the crown jewel, the one that broke headlines, crossed into the million-dollar range due to its perfection and provenance. Think about that for a second. A coin you could have easily tossed in a jar at home, sold for more than most people's houses. Let's zoom in. On the reverse side, you see a British sword being surrendered to an American hand, a symbol of victory and unity. On some rare 2015 P versions, you can spot a light doubling in the phrase Saratoga 1777. Others have a partial die clash, where faint ghost-like images appear behind the sword hilt or near the rim. These subtle details, often missed by the naked eye, are exactly what make the difference between 25 cents and $1 million. And it's not just about the doubling. Some of these coins were struck on experimental planchets, slightly different metal compositions that slipped through quality control. These planchet errors can cause unique toning, odd coloration, or unexpected weight differences. When collectors see something that deviates from the standard 5.67 grams, their ears perk up. Many of these ultra-rare Saratoga quarters were released directly into circulation. That means right now, as you're watching this, one could be sitting in a cashier's drawer, inside a vending machine, or jingling in someone's pocket. Hidden treasure, disguised as loose change. And here's the kicker. Even minor varieties are gaining massive attention. Dealers are rushing to scoop up any 2015 P Saratoga quarters in high-grade condition. If yours shows full luster, no scratches, and sharp details, especially around Washington's eye and the surrender sword, you could be holding something incredible. Now, let me tell you something most people don't realize. Grading is everything. Two coins can look identical, but a single point difference in grade can mean the difference between $50 and $50,000. That $1 million Saratoga quarter was graded a perfect MS 68, nearly flawless under magnification. The discovery sent ripples through the collecting community. Coin clubs across the country began hosting Saratoga hunts. Bank tellers started checking their drawers. Even non-collectors got swept up in the craze. Everyone wanted to find the next one. Because when something this rare surfaces once, there's always a chance there's another out there waiting to be found. And here's where the story takes a poetic turn. The man who found that first $1 million Saratoga quarter, he didn't even set out to make money. He was just organizing his change out of habit. When reporters asked what he planned to do with his windfall, he said, "I'm keeping the rest of my coins. Because now I know, every one of them has a story." That's what makes this hobby magical. It's not just about the money. It's about the mystery, the chase, the thrill of holding history in your hand. First, flip your coin and look for the mint mark. You want the P. That stands for Philadelphia. Then, under a magnifying glass, inspect the reverse side. Look closely at the word Saratoga, especially near the 1777 date. If you see doubling, ghost-like impressions, or any distortion around the sword or rim, your heart might just skip a beat. Next, check for any unusual toning or surface texture, goldish hues, rainbow patterns, or unusually sharp edges. Weigh it if you can. A difference of even 1/10 of a gram can mean you've got an experimental planchet. And finally, if your coin looks uncirculated or freshly struck, do not clean it. Send it to a professional grading service immediately. The 1999 P New Jersey quarter. It looks just like any other coin from the change you get at the gas station or the grocery store. But this one hides a secret, a minting mistake so rare, so subtle, that even professional graders missed it for years. Collectors still whisper about the day it was found. A man from Delaware was rolling quarters to take to the bank when one caught the light differently. The color seemed off, the texture felt strange, and something about the strike looked wrong. But not bad wrong. Valuable wrong that he tossed it aside at first. Just another coin. But that night, something told him to look again. And that second look would change his life forever. Because what he held wasn't just a 1999 P quarter. It was a coin born from a minting error that should have never reached the public. When experts examined it, they found something shocking. The planchet, the blank piece of metal used before the design is struck, wasn't the usual copper-nickel blend. This one was made from a transitional metal, a leftover from the previous minting batch, creating a coin with a slightly different sheen and weight. Dealers started searching. Collectors tore through their jars of spare change. Everyone wanted to find another one. And as word spread, the value skyrocketed, all the way to over $1 million at auction. But here's the twist. There's still more out there. Experts believe several 1999 P New Jersey quarters with this same rare composition were released into circulation. undetected, unregistered, and possibly still sitting in someone's pocket right now. The New Jersey design itself was part of the first year of the U.S. Mint State Quarters program. Millions were made. But in that massive production, a few slipped through, struck on the wrong planchets or with off-center designs, double dies, or even faint mint marks. And here's where things get fascinating. Point one specific version has what collectors call a double strike bridge. If you look closely, the outline of George Washington's head appears slightly shadowed, a doubling effect caused by the coin being struck twice. It's almost invisible unless you tilt it under light. But that one tiny imperfection makes all the difference. That's the version that hit the market for over $1.2 million, because it marked a turning point. The U.S. Mint was testing new dies and equipment for the upcoming state quarters rollout. New designs, new materials, new pressure settings. And, as with all big transitions, a few mistakes slipped through the cracks. Some experts believe the 1999 New Jersey error coins were struck using leftover planchets from the 1998 Washington quarters, a mix-up that created this hybrid coin. It's like having a time capsule, half from the old America, half from the new. Collectors were shocked when they realized what they were looking at. It wasn't just rare, it was a historical accident frozen in metal. And that's what makes this coin so powerful. It tells a story of change, error, and pure luck. The man who found the first one didn't even know what he had. He kept it in a jar for nearly 2 years. He only learned about its value after watching a documentary about rare state quarters. When he compared his coin to the one on TV, his heart started racing. The color, the texture, even the slight doubling, all matched perfectly. When he sent it for grading, the experts confirmed it. Genuine, mint error, transitional metal, double strike. Estimated value, over $1 million. Imagine that moment. One day you're just rolling coins, thinking you've got pocket change worth a few bucks, and the next day, you're sitting on $1 million miracle. Collectors called it the Garden State Ghost, because it vanished from the mint undetected, hidden in plain sight for years before finally revealing itself. First, the mint mark. You need the 1999 P, that's Philadelphia. Next, check the color and weight. A standard quarter weighs 5.67 grams. But the rare error version might weigh slightly less, closer to 5.5 or 5.6 grams. It'll have a softer, almost silver-like tone instead of the usual nickel shine. Now, flip it under light and examine Washington's head. If you notice any faint doubling, like a shadow behind his profile, that's your clue. On the reverse, look at the image of Washington crossing the Delaware River. The detail on the oars and the boats might appear slightly off-center or stretched. That's a sign of a double die. Around the words New Jersey, some versions show a ghost-like rim or faint second outline. That's what separates a regular quarter from a life-changing one. Dealers are still hunting these coins. Some have paid over 6 figures just for examples that show partial errors. But the fully verified version, the one with all 3 markers, can reach $1.2 million or more, depending on condition and grade. What's incredible is how ordinary it looks at first glance. You could hold it in your hand and never know you're touching a fortune. And that's what makes collecting so thrilling. Somewhere, in a jar, in a drawer, maybe in the glove box of a car, sits another 1999 New Jersey quarter just waiting to be found. Think about that. While most people spend their lives chasing luck, a few people are discovering it one coin at a time. This story isn't just about metal and money. It's about hope, the idea that extraordinary things can hide in the most ordinary places. The man who found his $1 million coin once said, "I almost threw it away." Imagine if he had .so tonight. When you get home, grab that old coffee can full of quarters. Line them up under a bright light. Look for that Philadelphia mint mark, that slightly off-center strike, that silvery glow. But when it resurfaced, collectors couldn't believe what they were seeing. A 1776 to 1976 D Washington quarter, a coin millions of Americans spent without a second thought, suddenly turned out to be worth up to $1 million. Yes, one simple bicentennial quarter, hiding in plain sight for nearly 50 years, changed everything. It started like any other story of forgotten history. In 1976, the United States celebrated its 200th birthday, the bicentennial. The Mint wanted something special to mark the occasion. They redesigned the Washington quarter, adding a bold 1776 to 1976 date and a Revolutionary War drummer on the back. Tens of millions were made. Everyone had them in their pockets, in vending machines, in piggy banks. Nobody thought twice about it. But what nobody realized was that some of these coins, especially the ones from the Denver Mint, were hiding something extraordinary. A minting mistake so rare, so subtle, that most people never even noticed it. Yet this very mistake is what turned a 25-cent coin into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure worth $1 million. Collectors call it the bicentennial miracle. It all began when a man in Colorado bought an old coin collection from an estate sale. Nothing seemed special, just a bunch of worn-out coins, some silver, some common quarters. But as he sorted through them, one coin caught his eye. The shine was different. The weight felt slightly off. He pulled out his magnifying glass, and that's when he saw it. The 1776 to 1976 D Washington quarter with details that didn't match any he'd seen before. The rim was doubled. The drummer boy's drum lines looked ghosted, almost like a shadow beneath the design. And the D mint mark seemed misplaced, pressed deeper, slightly tilted. When he weighed it, it came in heavier than it should have. It wasn't a standard copper-nickel coin. It was struck on a 40% silver planchet, a leftover blank that should have never been used at the Denver Mint. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. He sent the coin for grading, thinking maybe it was worth a few $100. Weeks later, he got the call. The expert on the other end of the line told him he was holding one of the rarest bicentennial errors ever discovered. A Denver-minted quarter struck on a silver planchet, perfectly preserved, with a deep cameo finish. When it hit the auction block, bids exploded. Collectors fought tooth and nail to own this piece of American history. By the end of the night, it sold for nearly $1 million. $1 million for a quarter that almost got spent at a gas station. But here's the thing. This wasn't the only one. Over the years, a handful of similar 1776 to 1976 quarters have surfaced, some with double dies, others with silver compositions, and even a few with striking errors like off-center designs or missing details. And every single time, collectors go wild. Dealers are paying huge money for these. Because every one of them tells a story, a hidden chapter of the bicentennial celebration that most Americans never knew existed. Think about it. Millions of these quarters were minted, yet only a tiny handful escaped with these mistakes. These coins are living time capsules, survivors from one of the most patriotic years in U.S. history. And buried among all those millions of ordinary coins, a few extraordinary ones are still waiting to be found. Now, before you run to check your change jar, let me tell you exactly what to look for. Because this is where the magic happens and where most people get it wrong. First, look for the mint mark. The D stands for the Denver Mint, and that's crucial. While the Philadelphia and San Francisco mints also made bicentennial quarters, the Denver versions hold some of the most valuable errors. Next, examine the edge. The standard quarters have a copper core, which gives the edge that orange-brown stripe. But if your 1776 to 1976 D quarter looks silver all the way through, no copper showing, you might have something special. That could mean it's a 40% silver strike, possibly one that slipped out from a collector's set into circulation by mistake. Now, flip it over and study the drummer boy. Look closely at the drum lines, his hat, and the flames of the torch. If you notice any doubling, meaning the design looks shadowed or duplicated, that's a strong sign of a double die. Those are incredibly valuable. And here's another secret detail. Some of the most valuable 1976 quarters show slight misalignment in the 1776 to 1976 date or a faint doubling on the word Liberty. These are hard to spot with the naked eye, but can mean the difference between a coin worth 25 cents and one worth thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars. But the key, the absolute key, is condition. If your coin looks like it's been through 1,000 parking meters, it's probably not the one. The million-dollar examples are usually in pristine condition. Uncirculated, sharp details, mirror-like surfaces. Still, even a circulated one can surprise you. One collector in Texas discovered his coin while going through an old coffee can of quarters his father had saved. It had a D mint mark and looked ordinary, but he noticed the weight was off, just a fraction heavier than a normal quarter. He sent it in for grading, and it came back as a silver planchet strike worth over $20,000. That's $20,000 from a coin that had been sitting in a can for decades. But here's the most incredible part. Experts believe there are still a few undiscovered bicentennial quarters out there that could break the $1 million mark again. Maybe one is sitting in your dresser. Maybe it's jingling around in your car's cup holder. Maybe it's already in your hands. Collectors were shocked when that first $1 million sale made headlines. But it opened everyone's eyes to a simple truth. Hidden treasures don't always come in gold. Sometimes, they're right there in the change you've ignored for years. The bicentennial quarter represents more than just money. It's a symbol of history, craftsmanship, and the thrill of discovery. Every time someone finds one of these rare varieties, it reignites that same excitement. The idea that fortune can appear in the most ordinary moments. The next time you get change from the grocery store, take a closer look. Turn that quarter over in your hand. If you see 1776 to 1976 with a D under Washington's bust, check the edge, check the shine, and weigh it if you can. Look for silver color, missing copper, double details, or off-center strikes, because one small detail could turn your pocket change into a life-changing discovery. Collectors are still searching, dealers are still bidding, and history is still being rewritten, one quarter at a time. And who knows, the next $1 million coin might not come from a fancy auction house. It might come from you. But instead, it changed one man's life forever. I'm talking about the 2000 D South Carolina State Quarter, a coin so mysterious, so rare, that one in flawless condition with the right error has been valued at over $1.1 million. Yes, a simple 25-cent coin that could be worth more than most homes. It all started with an innocent discovery. A retired truck driver from Kansas was sorting through his coin jar, just looking for quarters for laundry. He had no idea one of those coins, worn, dull, and seemingly ordinary, was hiding a secret the entire coin world had missed for decades. He almost spent it without thinking, but something about it caught his eye. That something turned out to be the rare 2000 D South Carolina quarter with an extraordinary minting flaw. A misalignment so subtle, most people would never notice it. Yet that one detail made this coin worth over $1 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were calling each other in disbelief. And the story of this quarter spread like wildfire through the numismatic world. Why would a modern state quarter, minted by the millions, suddenly be worth a fortune? To understand that, we have to go back to the year 2000. The U.S. Mint had just begun releasing the popular 50 state quarter series, and South Carolina was among the early designs. The coin features the palmetto tree, the state bird, and the outline of the state itself. Simple, elegant, patriotic. But somewhere during production at the Denver Mint, a mechanical malfunction created one of the most fascinating mint errors ever recorded. The die, the metal stamp that presses the coin's image, shifted ever so slightly. It didn't just misalign. It created a double impression, a ghostly second outline of South Carolina and its symbols. When you tilt the coin under light, you can see a faint doubling of the palmetto and even part of the text, the Palmetto State. It's almost like the coin was whispering its secret to anyone who looked close enough. But here's the catch. The Mint never publicly acknowledged how many of these flawed coins escaped into circulation. Some experts believe only a handful survived. Others say there could be dozens still hiding in plain sight, buried in coffee cans, old cash registers, or the change tray in your car. And then came the twist no one saw coming. In 2018, one of these quarters surfaced at an auction. The bidding started small, a few hundred, then a few thousand. But as collectors realized what they were looking at, the price skyrocketed. In minutes, it crossed six figures. And when the gavel finally dropped, the coin sold for over $1 million. That's when the real frenzy began. Dealers were rushing to find any 2000 D South Carolina quarters they could get their hands on. YouTube channels, Facebook groups, even mainstream news started buzzing about it. Coin enthusiasts everywhere were emptying their drawers, scanning through piles of quarters with magnifying glasses, hoping to find that one rare piece that could change everything. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A second example appeared, this one with an even stranger twist. The edge of the coin showed what appeared to be partial reading, as if it had been struck on a different planchet, possibly a foreign one. Experts were baffled. How could a U.S. state quarter end up on the wrong metal blank? It turns out, during the early 2000s, the mint was also striking coins for other countries, and sometimes, planchets from those batches accidentally made their way into U.S. coin presses. That mistake created ultra-rare crossover errors, and that's what some believe happened to this 2000 D South Carolina quarter. Think about that. A coin meant to be ordinary, struck on the wrong metal, doubled in design, and forgotten for years, ends up being worth $1 million. It's the kind of story that makes collectors dream bigger, search harder, and never look at pocket change the same way again. But this story gets even more unbelievable. One collector who found a similar coin almost didn't bother to check it. He'd been told by a dealer that modern quarters are worthless. He was ready to toss it back in circulation. But when he looked closer under a bright light, he saw something off about the mint mark. The D, for Denver, looked slightly tilted, almost as if it had been hand-punched. And that detail alone turned out to be a critical marker of authenticity for the million-dollar version. This tiny imperfection, this little D, is what separates the common from the legendary. Collectors now obsess over it, using 10x magnifiers to check for that same slanted punch. It's the difference between a 25-cent coin and a million-dollar masterpiece. Many of these coins circulated for years before anyone knew their value. Imagine how many hands they passed through: grocery stores, vending machines, parking meters. The thought that your morning coffee change could contain a hidden fortune is enough to make anyone double-check their quarters. Why now? The story of the 2000 D South Carolina quarter has become legend. But let's get practical. How do you know if you have one? First, check for the D mint mark. That's essential. Then, examine the details. Look for doubling in the design, especially around the palmetto tree, the state outline, and the words, the Palmetto State. A strong light and magnifying glass are your best friends here. Next, inspect the edge of the coin. If it seems uneven or the reading looks incomplete, you might have an off-metal strike. That's one of the rarest and most valuable varieties. Finally, the condition matters. Coins with minimal wear, sharp details, and full luster are where the big money comes in. Even slightly worn versions can still fetch thousands, but mint-state examples are where the million-dollar miracles happen. Dealers today are still on the hunt for these coins. Some offer rewards for authentic examples. Others quietly trade them in private auctions where values soar beyond anything ever published in price guides. And every time one of these rare quarters resurfaces, the dream reignites. The dream that one ordinary coin could rewrite someone's financial future. Because here's the truth: treasures aren't always buried in the ground. Sometimes they're hiding in your wallet. Sometimes they pass through your hands every day, unnoticed. And sometimes it only takes one curious look, one moment of curiosity, to uncover something life-changing. 2000. Check the mint mark. D. Look for those strange doubling lines and that tilted letter. Because that one coin, that one piece of metal, could be the key to a fortune. And just like that truck driver who almost spent his million-dollar coin, you might be one moment away from a story the whole world will talk about. The 1991 P. Washington quarter, a coin most people wouldn't look at twice, is quietly rewriting coin history. It's one of those stories that sound too good to be true, yet every expert who's seen one can confirm. This tiny piece of metal could make you a millionaire overnight. That it all started with an innocent discovery. A retired mechanic from Pennsylvania, known for keeping change in a coffee can, dumped his old coins out one morning and noticed something strange. Among hundreds of dull quarters, one had a brighter, almost mirror-like finish and a faint doubling in the letters Liberty. He thought nothing of it until he saw an online auction where a similar coin had just fetched more than $1 million. That single realization turned his forgotten coffee can into a treasure chest. Collectors were stunned. How could a common 1991 quarter, minted in Philadelphia, one of the most ordinary mints in U.S. history, be worth that much money? The answer lies in a hidden minting error that no one was supposed to see. During the transition to a new die in late 1990, a small batch of 1991 P quarters was struck using improperly aligned dies. The result? A doubled die obverse, where Washington's profile appears subtly shadowed and the inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" show faint but clear duplication. But that's only part of the mystery. What made these coins even rarer was that some were struck on experimental planchets, blanks that weren't supposed to be used for circulation coins. These planchets had a different composition, giving the coin a brighter, almost proof-like sheen. A handful escaped the mint before quality control caught the error. Those few survivors are now among the most valuable modern quarters ever found. And here's where it gets even stranger. Experts believe fewer than 15 of these rare 1991 P-era quarters still exist. Each one tells a story of chance, of factory oversight, of routine turned into fortune. Dealers are paying small fortunes to get their hands on one, and collectors are searching coin rolls, change jars, and old dressers in hopes of finding that elusive million-dollar miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In 2019, a verified 1991 P double die quarter sold at auction for just under $1.2 million. The winning bidder, an anonymous collector, reportedly flew in by private jet just to see the coin in person before signing the papers. When asked why, he said something unforgettable. "It's not about owning it. It's about holding a piece of American luck." That phrase captured the imagination of everyone who heard it. Coin forums lit up overnight. Search engines exploded with 1991 P quarter error queries. People across the country began pulling coins from pockets, glove boxes, and piggy banks, wondering if they were sitting on their own million-dollar discovery. Some even claimed to have found potential matches, a subtle doubling here, a bright surface there. And while most turned out to be normal coins, a few were genuine errors worth tens of thousands. Still, the real treasure remains incredibly elusive. And that's what makes this story so captivating. Because the 1991 P Washington quarter doesn't look like a jackpot. It doesn't scream rare or valuable. It hides in plain sight, quietly sitting in jars, vending machines, or your change from the grocery store. Now, let's talk about how to spot one. First, check the mint mark. The letter P should be just to the right of Washington's ponytail, slightly above the date. That's your starting point. No mint mark means it's from Philadelphia before 1980, but in 1991, the P is key. Next, hold the coin under a bright light or use a magnifying glass. Focus on the word Liberty. If you see a faint doubling, a kind of ghostly shadow behind the letters, you could be looking at a doubled die. Move your attention to In God We Trust. The same doubling effect might appear there too. Crisp, subtle, but unmistakable once you notice it. Flip the coin. On the reverse, look for sharp detail in the eagle's wings and legs. On some error coins, the strike was slightly misaligned, leaving tiny flat areas near the wingtips. Others have a thicker rim on one side than the other. These minor quirks are what give collectors chills, because they mean the coin wasn't made like the rest. The color. Genuine error quarters from this batch sometimes have a slightly different tone, lighter, more silvery than gray. That's because of the experimental metal mixture used in the planchet. It's a detail so subtle that most people miss it, but experts know it instantly. But here's the kicker, and this is where most people slip up. A coin can look doubled and still be worthless if the effect came from die deterioration or machine doubling. True doubled dies have raised, clearly separated lines, not smeared or flat shadows. So if you find one, handle it carefully, never clean it, and get it authenticated by PCGS or NGC before you tell anyone. Because the difference between a $25 coin and a $1 million treasure comes down to a few microscopic details. Collectors are still out there, searching. The idea that a regular quarter, one worth 25 cents, could hold the power to change your life has become part of modern coin folklore. And every so often, a new story surfaces, a grandmother's keepsake found in an attic, a forgotten drawer discovery, a coin pulled from an old vending machine, each sparking the same question. Could this be the one? That's the magic of the 1991 P. Washington quarter. It reminds us that fortune doesn't always come with fanfare. Sometimes, it jingles quietly in your pocket, waiting for the right eyes to see it. And maybe, just maybe, those eyes belong to you. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or sort through that old jar of change, take a closer look. The coin you're about to overlook might not just be another quarter. It could be history. It could be freedom. It could be the miracle that turns a lifetime of small change into a story worth $1 million. The 2017 P. Ozark Riverways quarter, Yes, a regular-looking coin from your pocket change has shocked the coin world with versions worth up to $1.3 million. And the craziest part? Most people have no idea what makes it so valuable that it started like any ordinary day in 2017. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was striking the new America, the beautiful quarters, one of them honoring the Ozark National Scenic Riverways in Missouri. Millions rolled off the presses. But somewhere in that massive production run, something went wrong. A tiny minting error, invisible to the untrained eye, turned a few ordinary quarters into million-dollar treasures. Point one of these quarters didn't look special at all. It had the same graceful riverboat design, the same George Washington portrait on the front. But when a collector in Arkansas spotted a strange shimmer in the lettering, his curiosity got the better of him. He pulled out his magnifying glass, and what he saw made his heart skip a beat. The rim wasn't right. The strike seemed deeper. And beneath Washington's jawline, there was a faint doubling that wasn't supposed to be there. He sent the coin for grading, and when it came back, it was confirmed, a dramatic double die obverse, paired with an off-center reverse strike. A minting accident so rare, experts said fewer than 10 might exist, and that's when the story exploded. Coin dealers couldn't believe it. A modern quarter worth over $1 million? Impossible, they said. But then came the auction. A bidding war erupted, collectors battling for a coin most people wouldn't glance at twice. The final hammer dropped at over $1.3 million. But what happened next stunned everyone. Another Ozark quarter surfaced, this time in the hands of a retired mechanic from Missouri. He found it in a roll of quarters he got from the bank. At first, he thought it was just a cool design. But after hearing about the $1 million sale, he checked his. Sure enough, his coin had the same deep doubling in the motto, "In God We Trust," and the same distorted edge on the rim. He thought it was a dream, until he held the grading certificate in his hands and realized it was real. Dealers began calling it the River Miracle, a coin that flowed out of the Philadelphia Mint with a secret hidden in plain sight. Collectors were shocked. They began searching every pocket, every coin jar, every old roll of change sitting in their drawers. Everyone wanted to be the next person whose pocket change turned into a life-changing treasure. But here's where the story takes a twist. Not all 2017 Ozark quarters are valuable. In fact, only a handful have this exact minting mistake, and most people wouldn't even recognize it if they were holding it right now. First, look at the front, the obverse. Focus your eyes on Washington's face, especially the area around his chin, lips, and the motto, "In God We Trust." If you notice a shadowy, doubled image of the letters, that's your first clue. The doubling will look like a ghostly outline or a blurry edge, like the coin was stamped twice, but slightly off alignment. Next, check the rim. On these rare 2017 Ozark quarters, the rim near the mint mark, P, often looks thicker or slightly tilted. It's subtle, but that's what makes it so valuable. Most people overlook it. Then, flip the coin over to the reverse. Look at the riverboat scene, the lettering Ozark Riverways. Some error coins show faint die cracks running through the letters, almost like veins of silver lightning. That's a major tell. Some versions of this coin were struck on the wrong planchet, meaning they were printed on a metal blank meant for a dime. These are incredibly light and have a thinner edge. If your quarter feels just a bit too light or fits loosely in a quarter holder, you might be holding a fortune. Collectors who found these coins said it felt almost supernatural. One man said, "It was like the coin was calling to me. I just knew it was special." But here's the tragedy. Thousands of people might have already spent these coins without realizing their value. Imagine buying a soda, handing over change, and accidentally giving away something worth $1 million. It's happened before. Dealers whisper stories about cashiers and vending machines swallowing coins that could have changed lives. And that's why coin experts are urging everyone to start checking their 2017 quarters, especially the ones with the P mint mark from Philadelphia. The Ozark Riverways quarter marked one of the last times the mint used that specific die combination before switching out for maintenance. That means those flawed dies, the ones that caused the doubling and misalignment, were destroyed soon after the mistake was caught. The few coins that escaped became instant rarities, ghosts from a moment the mint tried to erase. Every collector dreams of that moment, when a normal-looking coin turns out to be something extraordinary. The 2017 P. Ozark quarter proves that dream is real. Some of these coins have been discovered by everyday Americans, retirees, truck drivers, teachers, people who never thought they'd find treasure. One woman even used her find to pay off her mortgage. She said, "It wasn't just a coin. It was a miracle in metal." But before you run to cash in your change jar, remember, the difference between a regular Ozark quarter and a $1.3 million one comes down to tiny details. So grab a magnifying glass, good lighting, and take your time that if your coin has clean, sharp edges and no doubling, it's likely worth face value. But if it shows that subtle doubling on "In God We Trust" or the riverboat's details, and especially if the rim looks off-center or unusually thick, you might be holding a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Collectors say these error quarters are the modern holy grail. And considering that one sold for $1.3 million, it's easy to see why. Imagine, just for a second, that you find one tonight. You pull open that old jar on your dresser, pour the coins out, and there it is, a 2017 P. Ozark quarter that's been waiting years for you to notice it. That single coin could rewrite your story. So check your change carefully. Look for the doubling. Study the edges. Because history shows, the most valuable treasures often hide in plain sight. And who knows? The next coin that changes someone's life forever might be sitting in your pocket right now. A 1997 D. Washington quarter, just an ordinary-looking coin most people spent without a second thought, has now become one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin history. And what makes it even crazier is that it was hiding in plain sight for over 2 decades. Now imagine this. You're sitting at your kitchen table, counting loose change from an old jar. You slide a few quarters aside for laundry, maybe grab a couple for a coffee. But in that small pile of silver coins, there's one that doesn't look any different. And yet, it could pay off your house, your car, and still leave you with more money than most people see in a lifetime. That's what happened to one man in Colorado. He was cleaning out his late father's belongings when he stumbled on a small container labeled "Weird Coins." Inside were a few old nickels, some tarnished dimes, and a single 1997 quarter with a D mint mark. It looked ordinary enough until he noticed something strange under a magnifying glass. The edge was slightly off. The lettering on "Liberty" seemed doubled, almost shadowed. And the color, a faint golden tint beneath the silver surface, looked unusual. Curious, he sent it to be appraised. Weeks later, he got a call that changed his life forever. He didn't. Not yet. But what he held in his hand was no regular quarter. It was a minting error so rare, so unexpected, that even the grading experts were left stunned. This single 1997 D. Washington quarter sold for nearly $1.5 million at a private auction. The reason? A rare double striking combined with a planchet composition error. In simple terms, the coin was accidentally struck on a transitional metal blank not meant for 1997 quarters. Instead of the usual copper-nickel clad, it contained traces of a foreign alloy, the kind used for experimental testing before the mint switched machinery in the late 90s. The Denver Mint, responsible for striking the D quarters, had been quietly running tests to improve die life and strike clarity. A handful of experimental blanks, possibly just a few dozen, slipped into regular production. And that's how a few 1997 D quarters escaped into circulation unlike any other. Collectors call it the invisible jackpot, because you can't tell at first glance. You have to look closely, very closely. But here's the part that really shocks people. Even professional dealers missed it for years. This coin circulated like normal pocket change. It paid for gas, groceries, coffee. No one realized that every single time it changed hands, $1 million miracle was moving with it. And the man who discovered it? He almost gave it to his nephew to use for an arcade machine. Because here's the truth. This wasn't a one-off fluke. After news of the discovery broke, collectors all over the country began scouring their jars, drawers, and glove compartments. A few more examples surfaced, some selling for hundreds of thousands. Depending on condition and visibility of the minting error, you see, the 1997 D. Washington quarter has one of the most deceptive mint errors ever recorded. It's not a bold double die like the famous 1955 Lincoln cent. It's subtle. You have to angle the coin under light. Look at the "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." If you see a faint doubling or shadowing around the letters, that's your first clue. But the real telltale sign lies in the metal. Under certain light, the coin reflects a golden hue, not bright gold, but a warm, dull tone that sets it apart from typical silver-gray quarters. That's due to the experimental alloy mix used in that short batch from the Denver Mint. Dealers have described it as the coin that doesn't know what it's made of. And if you flip it over, look closely at George Washington's hairline, and especially at the eagle on the reverse. Some coins show a faint misalignment, almost like the image is slightly shifted off-center. That's a key indicator that your quarter may have been struck twice or improperly positioned in the die. But what really drives collectors wild is the story behind it. The Mint never officially confirmed the existence of these transition error quarters. No press release, no report, nothing. For years, the entire thing was considered rumor. Then, when the first verified specimen appeared, it shattered everything experts thought they knew about 1990s coin production. This coin rewrote the book on modern mint errors. It's the kind of discovery you spend your whole career hoping to see once. And here's something that will make you look twice at every quarter from now on. Experts believe there could still be up to a dozen undiscovered examples out there. Somewhere, sitting in coffee cans, old wallets, or maybe even inside a gas station till. Imagine that. The next time you get change from a vending machine, one of those quarters could literally be worth more than your car. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to check their inventories. And suddenly, everyone wanted a 1997 D quarter. Prices for regular ones even spiked for a short time. That's how powerful the story became. But let's talk about how you can tell if you're holding the real treasure. First, the mint mark. It must have a D for Denver. No P, no S. The valuable versions are all from Denver. Second, weight. A regular quarter should weigh 5.67 grams. The rare ones come in slightly heavier, around 5.8 or 5.9 grams, due to the unique metal composition. You can use a digital scale to check this at home. Third, pay attention to the sound. When you drop it on a hard surface, it gives off a faintly different ring, sharper, almost bell-like, compared to regular quarters. Seasoned collectors call it the Denver ring. And finally, the color under bright light. That faint golden-silver hue is your ultimate clue. But here's the thing. Even if you find one that looks promising, don't clean it. Ever. Cleaning can instantly destroy its collector value. If you suspect you've got one, handle it gently by the edges, place it in a soft holder, and get it authenticated by a trusted grading company like PCGS or NGC. Because if you've truly got one of the rare Denver errors, you're not just holding a coin. You're holding history. And think about this. One small oversight by a mint worker back in 1997 led to a handful of coins escaping into circulation that are now worth a fortune. That's the kind of story that reminds us how tiny accidents can lead to life-changing discoveries. It's the reason collectors keep searching. It's the thrill that keeps them up late, checking every coin, every mark, every detail, hoping that maybe, just maybe, the next one they pick up will change everything. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take a second look. That 1997 D. Washington quarter you're about to toss in a jar might just be the key to a dream you didn't even know you were chasing. That coin was a 2002 P. Tennessee quarter, and what made it special still baffles collectors to this day. This isn't some story about rare gold or treasure buried in the ocean. This was everyday pocket change, a 25-cent coin that turned into a life-changing fortune. And the crazy part? You might have one sitting in your own coin jar right now, just waiting to be discovered. The 2002 P. Tennessee quarter was part of the U.S. Mint's 50 State Quarters program, celebrating Tennessee's deep musical heritage with guitars, a fiddle, and a trumpet on the reverse side. Over 286 million were struck in Philadelphia, so at first glance, nothing about it screams rare. But what happened with a handful of them changed everything. You see, something went wrong deep inside the mint, and that's where this story takes a sharp turn. One night, during a routine minting session, a batch of Tennessee quarters was accidentally struck on experimental planchets, thin coin blanks intended for another denomination. These mysterious errors went unnoticed, and the coins entered circulation mixed in with the regular batch. To the untrained eye, they looked ordinary. But under the right light, their surfaces shimmered just a little differently, their edges slightly smoother, their weight a hair off. At first, no one noticed. These coins passed from hand to hand, in vending machines, drive-thrus, and tip jars, completely ignored. Until one day, a collector named Martin from North Carolina spotted something odd. He'd been collecting state quarters since the beginning of the program. One evening, while rolling coins for deposit, he saw a Tennessee quarter that looked off. It gleamed strangely under his desk lamp, and the rim seemed unusually sharp. He pulled out his jeweler's loupe and froze. The edge was missing the faint copper hue found on normal quarters. He didn't know it then, but he was holding one of the rarest minting errors in modern U.S. history. When Martin sent it for authentication, even the grading experts were stunned. The coin wasn't struck on standard quarter material. It was on a transitional planchet, the kind used for experimental test strikes. The graders confirmed it as a wrong planchet strike, perfectly preserved, and the first of its kind ever documented for the 2002 Tennessee issue. When word hit the collector community, chaos followed. Coin dealers started checking their inventories. Collectors scoured rolls of Tennessee quarters, and eBay listings exploded overnight. People were pulling out old state quarter maps and looking for any Tennessee coin with the Philadelphia P mint mark. But here's where the story gets even wilder. A second coin surfaced, this time found by a retired veteran in Florida who'd been collecting coins since the 1970s. His coin showed an even rarer flaw, a double die obverse. Under magnification, the words United States of America and quarter dollar appeared doubled, as if ghosted slightly beside themselves. Only a handful of such coins are known, and this one was in pristine, uncirculated condition. When it went to auction, the bidding was fierce. Collectors from all over the country fought for it. And by the time the hammer fell, the coin had sold for an unbelievable $1.5 million. The story hit coin forums, collector magazines, and even local news. People were stunned. A simple Tennessee quarter, worth 25 cents, had turned into a $1 million miracle. These coins don't scream their rarity. They whisper it. And if you're not paying attention, you'll never notice it. Most of the valuable 2002 Tennessee quarters share three key traits. And if you learn to spot them, you could change your life. First, the weight. A standard Tennessee quarter weighs about 5.67 grams. The rare transitional error versions weigh slightly less, around 5.4 grams. That tiny difference can only be picked up on a precise digital scale, but it's the first red flag that your coin might be special. Second, the rim color. Regular quarters show a visible copper layer when viewed from the side. If your 2002 Tennessee quarter has a solid silver-colored edge with no visible copper strip, your heart should start racing. That's a potential wrong planchet strike. And third, the doubling. Use a magnifying glass and carefully inspect the front of the coin, especially the words Liberty, In God We Trust, and the year 2002. If you notice a shadow-like doubling or ghost image, you might be holding one of the legendary double die versions that rocked the coin world. Collectors were shocked when the first of these sold for a fortune. Dealers are still hunting for more, hoping lightning strikes twice. Some even believe there are a few still out there, unrecognized, hiding in pocket change, waiting for someone like you to find them. But there's another twist to this story, one that keeps even veteran collectors on edge. A few Tennessee quarters were discovered with a subtle die clash error, where part of the reverse design, the musical instruments, faintly appeared on the obverse side. It's like a ghost image stamped into the metal, barely visible, but unmistakable once you know what to look for. These are ultra-rare and, when verified, can fetch enormous sums from dedicated error collectors. And yet, despite all the hype, many people overlook this coin. Because it doesn't look like treasure. It doesn't sparkle with gold or glitter with age. It's modern, common, and familiar, the kind of coin you'd hand a cashier without a second thought. But that's what makes it so powerful, that it's a reminder that life-changing value doesn't always hide in dusty treasure chests. Sometimes, it's sitting right there in your pocket. You just have to know where to look. Imagine waking up tomorrow, checking your change, and spotting that slightly different Tennessee quarter. You toss it on your desk, thinking it's nothing. But then you remember this story. You grab a magnifier, a small scale, and suddenly, your pulse spikes. Could this be it? Could you be the next person to find $1 million coin hiding in plain sight? This isn't fantasy. It's happened before. And as long as coins like this are still out there, it can happen again. So here's what you do. Grab your 2002 Tennessee quarters, hold them under a bright light, and start inspecting. Look for that missing copper ring. Feel the texture of the surface. Weigh it if you can. And if something feels different, don't ignore it. Have it checked by a professional grader like PCGS or NGC. Because that single decision could change your life. Collectors say that coins like these are lightning in a bottle, the kind of discovery that happens once in a lifetime. But every great discovery starts the same way. With someone who paid attention when everyone else didn't. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. The next one